Welcome back, this is Strat, and this is episode 5 of my Zombies weapon ranking. In this series, weapons will be judged on multiple factors to help determine their scores. All the weapons will be graded individually with no assistance other than my knife and my grenades. Up to this point, we've talked about 4 weapons that are relatively weak and can't really get you anywhere past the early game. This ends now as we take on our first weapon with a 1,000 point price tag, the Ep.5. The Ep.5 is a submachine gun that is known for its slow fire rate but also strong damage. This gun does a base 100 damage at every conceivable range that you'll probably be firing at in zombies. The Ep.5's 32 round mag paired with a decent reload time means that you will rarely be caught off guard when using this weapon. However, what may catch you off guard is this gun's body multipliers. If you've seen my other videos, all the marksman rifles and the Colts don't come anywhere near it in means of damage potential. Although I should be saying body multiplier singular, as the abdomen and chest ones don't affect the damage at all. This matters not, as that delicious 4x multiplier to the head makes up for all of this and more. For every headshot you hit, you're doing 400 points of damage, and to put this into perspective, a zombie on round 3 only has 350 points of health. 400 is also a nice even number, which helps to avoid getting headless zombies, which I've already mentioned are very annoying to deal with. In fact, the number 400 is so perfect that it allows you to shoot a zombie once in the head and then knife them one time to kill them on both rounds 4 and 5. So now we know that the gun's pretty strong, but how does it fare against the... It does very well. It fires just fast enough so that you can hit all of your shots and also do damage at a pretty decent pace. It's actually so good, in fact, that the second phase of dogs is dealt with just as easily as the first, albeit a couple more shots to kill. The Ep.5's ability to take care of dogs so easily, as well as the high headshot multiplier for the normal zombies, makes it a great choice for early to even the starting stages of the mid-game. When paired with its above average ammo capacity, this is a gun that can deal good damage for a long time and at the low price of only 1,000 points. Based on all this, the Ep.5 seems to be a gun with no drawbacks, but there is one that you wouldn't think of. You see, the Ep.5 is locked behind 3 openable doors, the first one being the starting room, the second one being to the laboratory, and the third one being to the teleporter. This is an issue because it means that there is no situation in which you have enough points to buy the door as well as get the Ep.5 that you wouldn't also have enough points to buy the door to power and then get the box. Because of this, I don't think I've ever seen someone buy the Ep.5 off the wall on either the World at War or Black Ops 1 versions of Darius. But hey, just like if a tree in the forest falls, it does still make a sound, so the Ep.5, even if it's not used, is still a good weapon. So it's not very surprising that the Ep.5 is the best non-pack-a-punched gun so far. I mean, it does cost the most. The first time I pack-a-punched the Ep.5 as a kid on Black Ops 1, I was really excited for how much ammo the gun was going to have. This was because out of all the wall weapons, the Ep.5, a gun from a different game, had the most overall ammo at 234. Alright, and with that, my punchline is all set up. So let's go ahead and get into the stats of the pack-a-punched Ep.5. When pack-a-punched, the Ep.5 becomes the afterburner, which has 192 bullets in reserve. I feel like I've seen that before. Trust me when I say I so wish this was a mistake. I mean, the ammunition per mag doubled to 64, so I feel like they at least did something with it. I just don't know if they forgot to add the reserve. But when you realize that there is not 1, not 2, but 3 bullet guns that don't get extra damage when pack-a-punched, it's not too surprising that they just didn't want to add extra ammo to the Ep.5. However, while the gun does not have very many shots to shoot, the ones it does have are very dangerous, especially when you hit those headshots. Thanks to the extra base damage of 200 and the extra headshot multiplier now being 5x, each bullet does 1000 damage. This number is comparable to guns like the RC-1 and G115 that can do up to 1200 damage per shot, and those are marksman rifles. So we are left with a weapon with excellent mag size, great DPS, and perfect mobility, but it has no ammo. Unlike the Widdershin's RC, it's very easy to kill dogs with the perfect amount of shots if you just shoot it single fire. This helps you conserve every single bullet you can because man, you're gonna need it. If you think the Pack-a-Punched M1 had trouble getting points to buyback ammo, then you got another thing coming if you decide to use the Afterburner. The interesting part is that if you compare the Widdershin's RC1 to the Afterburner beats it in damage if you take into account every single bullet. However, this gets a little bit more skewed once you have to buy ammo. If we assume you are completely out of ammo when you go to buy more, you take a massive 64 bullet hit with the Afterburner, as opposed to the 15 bullets for the M1. If we were to show this in fraction form, you are losing 1/3 of your overall ammo capacity with the Afterburner, but only 1/10 when it comes to the M1. It is important to note that even with this loss in damage potential, the Afterburner still does more damage than the RC1. However, the values are now so close that the RC1 having a chest multiplier of 2x compared to the Afterburner's 1x, the Afterburner will now start losing in damage if you're hitting any significant amount of chest shots. Since Zombies players are not immaculate, it is likely you're going to hit some chest shots along the way as well as miss some shots entirely. Now with the RC1, since the hipfire is better than the Afterburner, even if you're not aiming down the sights, you're still going to hit more accurate shots. Even though the MP40 is of course slower firing, it is still an SMG, so you will be encouraged to do that run and gun roll, which will make you miss even more shots if you're hip firing too much. In my games, I found myself running out of ammo far more often and not having enough points or being very close to not having enough when I was using the Afterburner compared to the RC1. It is very sad how some guns in this game are purely limited by their ammo consumption and how much it costs to get more, because the MP40 Pack-a-Punch is a very good weapon in basically every other scenario. That's about all you need to know about the Afterburner, so I think it's time to get on to some scoring. The first category is debatably the most important, that being the gun's last viable round, or peak performance. The MP40 marks another first for this series, as it's the first gun that will not be based off of zombie killing potential, but rather dog killing potential entirely when it comes to peak performance. This is because the 400 damage per headshot allows you to kill zombies for quite some time, but the lack of headshot damage on dogs does not allow for this. With that being said, I'm going to give the MP40 a peak of round 15 because round 16 is the first round that dogs can start to spawn in. I know I said the MP40 could handle the second wave of dogs just fine, but the amount of health they have from the third wave onward is just too much. It takes a minimum of 13 shots to put one down if you don't hit any headshots. This throws any chance of camping out the window, and even training is really frustrating when you have to focus on a dog for 13 shots worth of time. For the Afterburner, it is much simpler to calculate, because all I have to do is just find out when this gun takes around 5 shots to kill, because then it'll be spending too much ammo for how much it costs to buy more. I think round 30 is the perfect point for this, as it takes 5 headshots to kill one zombie, and also there's about 80 zombies per round. Assuming you are only shooting one zombie at a time, this gun can kill about 50 zombies before it runs out of ammo. Now obviously you're going to get a lot of collateral hits when you use this gun, however we have to take away some bullets for dog kills as well as hip fire shots that hit the torso or don't hit at all. With the pros and cons accounted for, I still think the average amount of kills you're going to get is going to be around 50. When translating this to point gain, you end up with about 5,000 points after adding up all the individual hits as well as headshots and torso kills. On paper, this sounds pretty good. You're always going to get enough points to get more ammo if you're accurate enough, and you shouldn't have much trouble over the course of the game, right? Well, actually, yes, you wouldn't have an issue at all if you always had 250 shots, but in reality you're going to have more like 192 because remember, you do not get to keep those 64 shots if you run out of ammo and then buy some. So now, even with immaculate play and collaterals, you're still going to be running short on funds and be living a paycheck-to-paycheck life in a game that involves killing zombies. You know, let's say your killing skills border on aimbot level. You're still going to run into one really big issue. And that problem is the placement of this wall buy, as it's in a terrible location. There's only one way out, and that's usually the teleporter. These things do allow for infinite repetitive use, unlike the ones in 5 and Kino, but there's a massive price tag with it. Each one of those escapes is going to run you 1,500 points, which you cannot afford if you're trying to get ammo for this gun every time you run out. Some of you may be thinking, well, why don't you just train up the zombies and then leave that way? Yeah, you're not going to be able to do that in this room. This place is a freaking death trap. Unless you trained up every single zombie already, which is time consuming and dogs can spawn, there's almost no way you'll be able to pull it off in this room once you're in it. If you pair this with the tight corridor you have to take to get in and out, you're running the risk of getting pushed by a single zombie and then your entire run ends right there. Back to the teleporter costs. Even if you can afford both it and the gun's ammo, you're still going to get bullied by the game. You see, the Durreese teleporters can spawn in a power-up if you're lucky. However, if you're unlucky, which happens a lot more often the more you play, you're going to get dog spawns instead of power-ups. And if you listen closely, you can hear your wallet crying for every single bullet you have to put into those mutts. Anyway, to summarize this part, there's no way to have good survivability as well as perfect point retention. You have to sacrifice one to make the other work. Survivability is more of a short-term issue as it only relies on you getting in and out of the room without dying. However, you'll have to do this more and more as the game progresses, and eventually you'll get caught. And of course, point retention is a long-term issue, as once you drop below 4,500 points, you'll be working extremely hard just to make ends meet for the rest of the game. That was the very long and not simple way of saying that round 29 is this gun's peak performance, because it only takes 4 headshots to kill instead of 5. Now we are on to the second category, finally, which is going to be ease of use, or how difficult it is to use a weapon effectively across multiple different strategies. The MP40 and Afterburner can be ranked together on this one, and they both will be scoring an 8 out of 10. These guns have high mobility, low recoil, an okay reload time, and a slow fire rate that makes it easier to aim for any player. The only reason I'm not giving it a 9 or a 10 is that you have to hit headshots to be effective with it, as it doesn't have body multipliers anywhere else. The next category is the weapon comparison. This is where we compare different wall guns of similar point costs to see which one comes out on top. Unlike Black Ops 1, there are no other wall weapons that cost only 1,000 points, so we're going to move up to the next one over, which is 1,200. The gun we're going to be comparing the MP40 to is the STG-44. Looking at the stats, you can immediately see the similarities in damage as well as fire rate, which make these guns have kind of the same role. Though under closer inspection, there are some key differences that put one gun clearly over the other. The MP40 has more total ammo, a higher mobility, and a significantly reduced cost considering you have to open one less door to get to the weapon. Once you make it to where the STG is located, you already have access to the box as well as other perks, which you're going to want to use your points on more often than not. Even though the STG fires and reloads slightly faster, the fact that you have to buy an additional door and spend an extra 200 points is not worth it for what is essentially an AR version of the MP40. Because of this, I'm going to give the MP40 a 7 out of 10, and it gets a 7 and not an 8 because of the wall buy placement for the STG being favored for long-term use. I do still have to give it to the MP40 though. It fought a gun that was out of its weight class and still won, although 1,200 points is not that much of a difference to 1,000, but it is a difference. The last category is scored on the weapon's ability to save you if you're cornered by one or more zombies. The MP40 and Afterburner may have a slow rate of fire, but the high damage per headshot does allow you to punch through zombies and get away with that high mobility. With double tap, I think it's safe to say that you could take out at least 2 zombies if you're trapped by them. I think 3 is starting to push it though. I'll give the two guns a 6 out of 10 in this category. I think if they had slightly better hip fire, they'd be a higher number than this. With no point deductions to speak of, this leaves the MP40 at a crisp score of 65. It is still below the M1 carbine, but it is very high, and I'd say it's a respectable weapon. Too bad it's in an awful spot. That does it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on my Zombies weapon ranking. Ciao!